I think a lot of us have felt a lot of mixed emotion over the last couple of weeks. I think we felt distress, seeing the fires sweeping through our communities and natural landscapes. I think we felt anger, seeing our politicians ignore the effects of these bushfires and continue to support the fossil fuel industries that are fueling the climate change and is making them worse. And I think a lot of us felt an intense amount of shock this Wednesday when we received the news that the federal regulator, NOPSEMA, had granted an environmental approval to explore for oil in the Great Australian Bight. And I think it's that shock and that anger that we have turned into the numbers that we see out here today and the energy that we have to say we're not going to stop, we're going to keep fighting for the Bight. To say, approval from NOPSEMA does not mean this project will be environmentally safe. We know that it will be damaging to the local environment. We know about the risk of oil spills, and we know that expanding the fossil fuel industry is fueling climate change. Approval from the federal regulator does not mean that the people of this country approve this drilling. We know that local communities and people all across this country are standing together to say no to drilling in the Bight. And we also know that approval from the federal regulator does not mean that this project has the approval of the traditional owners and custodians of the Great Australian Bight. No. Ghana and Ngarrindjeri elder Uncle Moogie has to send his apologies today. He was going to grant us a welcome to the country today, but he has sorry business. But instead, I'd like to invite Uncle Bunna Laurie. He's a learning man. He's been a leading activist in the fight for the Great Australian Bight. He's a traditional custodian of that land, and he's going to give us an acknowledgement of country and speak to us about the importance of this fight to save the Bight. So welcome him.
Wenyo in my learning language, that means hello, welcome and greetings. Thank you very much for coming here today and showing your heart and your love and your care for our beautiful ocean. I'd also like to acknowledge the Ghana people and the Ngarrindjeri people. This is not the thing to do. This is not the thing to do in this country. It's just unbelievable. I just can't believe what's happening. I'm sure you feel sad in your heart too, like me. We need more people like you who really love what we have. Because we don't know what we got until we lose it. We don't know what we have until we lose it. And if we lose it, it's gone. It'll be gone forever. Your children, my children's future. But what matters, what we've enjoyed, and we want them to enjoy what we've enjoyed over the last 100, 200 years. Our ancestors have looked after that country 120,000 years. It's beautiful. Look at it right now. It's one of the last frontiers, one of the last pristine oceans on this planet that's left. We've got all the rubbish in the ocean. We've got plastic. We've got nuclear waste. You name everything that's in the ocean, killing the animals, killing our whales, marine life. Now look what's happening to climate change. The government never learns. They just don't understand. In 2016, we told them about that. To take action. 4 years is gone, we're heading for 2020. And now I had to come from Portland here to be with you and stand with you, because it's urgent. It's urgent! We need more people power. It's very important. The ocean does not belong to the government. It does not belong to Ecuador. They can go back to live their life. I'm not going to be on the beach spending the next 20 years picking up oil with a shovel. We don't want their problem to be our problems. No way. We'll never be out. And we're going to fight for it. Set the government and the Prime Minister, honestly, if you don't do that, we're going to be under the thumb for the rest of your life. And if there's any rest of life to come. We're not going to fix up this world. But the problems of the greedy people who want profit and money and wealth. Like Donald Trump said, I will make America great again. But you know what? He will never make America great again. No much more than what Mother Nature has already given us. It's a gift. So I will let Peter Owen come now and inform you on what's the outcome of this gathering, and I'm glad this has happened today, because maybe there's something we can work out today to start something. And already the youth of Norway has put a lawsuit against the government there already for their future. We need more young people. If they can do it, we can do it. Don't be afraid of them. I'm not afraid of them. My duty, my responsibility, and it's yours too.
Thanks, brother. Game on, Equinor. Game on. We knew this would happen, you know, and they've gone and done it. The Australian regulator literally a couple of days before Christmas. Shame. Shame. And why would they do that? They know there's absolutely no social licence whatsoever for this project. This shouldn't come as a surprise to Equinor. We've been telling them now for years. We made the point with BP. All of us here, and thousands of us right across Australia, have been making this point now for 5 years. Deep sea oil drilling in the Great Australian Bight is not supported by the people of this country. There is no social licence. The advice has been given to Equinor, possibly from a lot of the oil and gas and fossil fuel advocates in this country and other places of the world, has been just push on, get the approval, and then they'll drop away, they'll give up. No way. That's what happens in this country. If you look back to, say, the Franklin Dam, if you look to the big campaigns in the Kimberley, they were all subsequent approvals when the opposition massively escalated. And that is what we're going to see now, isn't it, folks? To Norway this year for their AGM and made it very clear that the opposition will not fall away. We reminded them that they had said quite publicly a year or so ago that they would not push through social resistance, through community resistance. I mean, there's something like 25 councils now across Southern Australia that have passed resolutions raising concern about this or outright opposing it. That's unprecedented. These are councils representing up to 1 million people across Southern Australia. We've had events, I mean, a couple of weeks ago, you were probably all, many of you are part of them, 50 events simultaneously right across the country, thousands of people on beaches. We're not seeing this with any other issue in the country at the moment. And that's because this one is about why the fires are burning right around this country right now. I mean, think of this week, the front page of the newspaper says, hellfire, hellfire. The Prime Minister is on holidays. ALP a week or so have come out and doubled down in their support for the fossil fuel industry. And then we get this. Clearly something is wrong. Clearly a certain lobby group are running the show rather than politicians who are supposed to be representing the interests of the people who put them into Parliament in the first place. What other scenario could explain what is happening? You know, it is time for a massive uprising. It is no longer a viable scenario to vote for a politician or a political party that won't commit to stopping the expansion of the fossil fuel industry now. There are lawyers going right through all the documentation that was made public during the week. We'll be certainly looking into legal avenues around the potential to challenge this approval, but we also will be having a massive focus now in Oslo on Norway, because the experience that we had when we were there during the year was the people of Norway are actually really good people, and they were amazed that their company, Equinor, that the government of Norway is the two-third majority shareholder of, their company essentially is doing things in Australia that the people of Australia do not support. And I think they're aware that we have a government that is obviously a rogue government on the international stage. Look at the role of just playing with the UN climate group. Australia is not very careful, we will end up with sanctions against this country in coming years. We will end up with sanctions against it. We are fast becoming a rogue nation. The control of the fossil fuel lobby over our major parties is alarming. That is creating a scenario where no longer are the people of this country's views actually being represented at all, and so we need to stand up. We will stop this. Equinor have no social licence, and in fact, depending on what you want to make of this supposed approval that's being given, the people of Australia have said no. There is no approval because the people of Australia have said no. No way. And that message will resonate out loud and clear across this summer. For folks that want to keep involved, check out the Great Australian Bight Alliance website, its Facebook page, the Wilderness Society, Sea Shepherd, the Bob Brown Foundation and many others. There'll be a lot happening. There's a great big bag up here full of hundreds of stickers. Get them on the backs of your cars, take a pile, give them to your friends over Christmas. Talk, get your communities, get your families involved. This is our fight. This is our line in the sand for Southern Australia. If we can't stop this massive push to expand the fossil fuel industry in our backyard, on our watch, what hope is there? And all we can do is hope that similar communities across the world who are dealing with similar issues are doing exactly the same. Because, jeepers, there's a crisis on our hands now, and the expansion of this industry has got to stop now. Thank you.
Director of the Wilderness Society in South Australia, and thank you again to Uncle Bunalori for those powerful words. Our next speaker today is Green Senator for South Australia, Sarah Hanson-Young. Has introduced a bill into Parliament to ban drilling in the Bight. So please welcome.
Thank you very much. Good on you all for being out here. I know this snap action was organised very quickly at the last minute, but I think the fact that you're all out here today shows just how strong the opposition is to the big oil companies trashing the Great Australian Bight. So thank you very much for making time today. And thank you must go to Uncle Bunalori, who, I can't imagine what it must be like to have to tell your family, your nieces, your nephews, your grandkids that your country is about to be sold off and trashed by a big multinational oil giant just because our government here in this country is too weak to stand up for the future. We have to turn that around. Peter Owen is absolutely right. Make no mistake that the approval given by this government quasi-independent agency is not the end of this fight. We are now only just beginning. We are going to take this on. I've been travelling around the country talking about the need to protect the Great Australian Bight for quite some time now, but increasingly the last few months. And more Australians are learning about what is going on over here. And they are shocked, and they are angry, and they are upset. They know that this is a beautiful, pristine wilderness area that needs to be protected. They're shocked when they hear that where this drilling is going to happen is in the middle of a whale sanctuary. They are amazed that a state government would virtually sit on the fence, give a nod, wink to the big oil company when they're going to trash South Australia's economy, our fishing and our tourism industries. But they are mostly angry. When I was in Bondi only 3 weekends ago, speaking to people on the shores of Bondi Beach about the Great Australian Bight, we had ash washing up on the sand. That ash, of course, was coming from the bushfires. Or should we say, the climate fires, because that is what they are. Make no mistake, these are climate fires. They need to be tackled, and we need a proper national climate emergency declared in order to deal with it. Prime Minister Scott Morrison has been on holidays in Hawaii. I want to be really clear about this. I don't mind if, dads and mums take some time off with their kids, but you don't do it when you're the Prime Minister in the middle of a national emergency. He has been missing in action on climate policy and strategy for months now. MIA. And he's got his energy minister gallivanting overseas to tell the rest of the world, please, can Australia just keep polluting a bit more for a bit longer? We are an international disgrace from this government. Australia is the third largest exporter of fossil fuel in the world. And if we allow drilling in the Great Australian Bight to open up, that is going to get even larger. So don't buy this argument that we are too small to make a difference. It is the exact opposite, in fact. Australia has the opportunity to be world leaders, not just in renewable and clean energy, but in helping the world transition from the very pollution that is destroying our planet. Morrison, who's been berated into returning home from his holiday, lands in Sydney tonight, we need to be very clear. He has breached the trust and the faith that he entered into at the election with the Australian people. He said he wanted this job. He said he was up for being a leader. Well, if you're up for being a leader, ScoMo, declare a national climate emergency, listen to what the fire experts are saying, take advice from the scientists, and bloody do something.
speaker, we have Leon Bignell, who's the Labor MP for Mawson. So this year, Leon broke ranks from Labor and came out to oppose drilling in the Bight. We know, however, that Labor has said that their position is, if the federal regulator approves it, that they are open to drilling in the Bight. So I think we want to ask you today of Leon, what are you and the Labor Party going to do now to fight for the Bight?
And good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see such big numbers out here at really short notice. I've written to Anthony Albanese and Scott Morrison again this week, following the news that sadness and angered all of us. It's time that people like Scott Morrison, who's the Prime Minister, who will be in power when drilling starts, if all this goes ahead, actually stops going for holidays in Hawaii and comes for a holiday in Kangaroo Island to see what is here and see why this is such a precious and vulnerable place. So we need the Prime Minister to turn up. He's the one who has the power to step in and stop this. Ahead of the federal election, I was constantly onto the leadership of the Federal Labor Party, and we got out of them a review. If Labor had been elected, there would have been a review on all sorts of things, not just the science, but a review of drilling in the Bight. And I was positive that that would have come out in our favour, but unfortunately we didn't win. So we have to deal with the cards that we have been dealt, and we've got to convince two Prime Ministers here, not just Scott Morrison, the Australian Prime Minister, but we've also got to convince the Norwegian Prime Minister. Now, what I know about the Norwegians is they don't like being criticised. They like to have this squeaky clean image, and what I know about the Prime Minister of Norway is she's an absolute fraud. She turns up to the United Nations where they're trying to get a permanent seat on the Security Council, and she talks about her desire to leave a blue legacy. She talks about her leadership in looking after the world's oceans. It's all bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. She tells the Norwegian people that. So we need to write as many letters as we can to members of Parliament in Norway, to members of Parliament here in Australia, both at the federal and the state level. And if you contact my office, via email, I'll email you the list of all 69 MPs in here. Because there's no point talking to the same ones all the time. You've got to talk to all of them, because people sit around tables in party room meetings, and people need to know that people around South Australia and around Australia are angry, and exactly what we feel. And I've seen it in 1983 when I came down to see Bob Hawke. I was in year 11 at school, and Bob Hawke was here doing his stump speech ahead of that federal election. He'd just become the Labor leader. I grabbed one of the No Damn stickers. I got Bob to sign it on the back. Now Bob stood up and he joined in the fight to save the Franklin River. He was the Prime Minister who led the international movement to stop mining in Antarctica. That's the sort of leadership we need to see in Australia. A Year 10 kid from Wollonga, I was taking a tour group through the Parliament about 4 weeks ago, and a Year 10 student asked me, does it make a difference if we turn up and take part in rallies? And I said, absolutely it does. People need to see that you turn up and that you care about what it is that is precious to you, what is precious to the place where you live. So please keep turning up, but also just keep the emails coming in, and not form letters, make it personal. Write to your politicians, write to all of them, not just your local MP, but to all politicians, and make it personal. Tell them the story about the dolphins that you've seen, the sea lions that you've seen, about the tens of thousands of jobs that are at stake here in the tourism and fishing industry. I mean, this is one of the biggest loads of BS that I've ever heard, that everyone from the oil and mining side keeps saying there's rivers of gold coming our way, all these jobs. We've already got tens of thousands of jobs here. What will happen if this drilling goes ahead in the Great Australian Bight is oil will go offshore, the profits will go offshore, and all the jobs will go to people from overseas who fly in, fly out. This, for South Australia, is all risk and no reward. So maintain the wage.
Fight for the Bight! Fight for the Bight! Climate justice. This year on our campuses, we've been involved in fighting our own universities, who disgustingly, at all three universities in this state, have extensive connections to the fossil fuel industry. And we've also been involved in organising for uni students to join in the new global climate movement that we've seen taking over the streets of our cities this year. So I have next to speak to us Anna Abranovich. She's actually just got back from the National Union of Students Conference, where she was a delegate fighting for more environmental campaigns on our university campuses, and she's been this semester leading the charge to get university students along to the global climate strike and part of their own national days of action for the environment. So please welcome Anna.
From the National Union of Students Conference, where we actually organised a National Day of Action March 13th. So I really encourage everyone to help build that, but definitely to come along to that. We need to actually be mounting a challenge and fighting. I actually disagree with the previous speaker. I don't think that anything would have changed if Labor were in government. I think Labor were absolutely appalling on the question of climate change, and I think they are appalling on the question of climate change right now. This same week that Albo was trying to talk about Scott Morrison, and Scott Morrison is appalling, but Scott Morrison's stance on climate change and the bushfires. This same week, Albo has been going around to coal companies telling them how he's equally as tied to coal as ever. They're central to our economy. Don't worry, I'm exhausting. That is shameful. That is disgusting. We need to stop having illusions in the parliamentary system. They want to run capitalism. They want to make money off coal. They want to make money off of drilling in the Bight. Those are their priorities. Alright, so I want to set a bit of context here. So the science agrees that climate change is causing more frequent and intense extreme weather events, and we're seeing those effects right now. Monster bushfires are ripping through bushland and suburban towns. They're coming within kilometres of burning coal mines that already exist, causing unimaginable harm to what is already a disgusting, awful climate change-induced event. Unprecedented drought and heat are threatening to make First Nations people Australia's first climate refugees. That is shameful. The country is smashing through heatwave records day after day. Sydney, Melbourne and now Canberra are enveloped in smoke-filled air of a quality peaking at 12 times the hazardous level. That is a mass poisoning event. Shamefully, this week Australia ranked worst on climate policy of 57 countries. And it is in this context that both the Labor and Liberal parties have affirmed their undying support for the expansion of fossil fuels industries across the country. It is in this context that instead of planning for an immediate transition away from fossil fuels, that our Resources Minister, Matt Canavan, has stated that his vision for the Bight is not to protect it, but to make it, I quote, the next major oil and gas province, not just for Australia, but for the world. So these are the priorities of the ruling class. It's clear. The SA Chamber of Mines and Energy Chief Executive Rebecca Knoll is a key cheerleader for this project. She says profit from oil in the Bight could contribute to public services like roads, schools and hospitals. This is a cynical and disgusting whitewash of the fact that drilling in the Bight is all about making money for an elite minority. Elites like Scott Morrison who can fuck off to Hawaii when their economy gets too bad. resource plan, has previously worked for BHP and Woodside Petroleum. Fossil fuel cronies are ingrained in the capitalist system and they're scratching one another's backs. So we can't play by the rules of the system. We can't make our vote count. We can't send a petition, send a polite email. We need to fight. We need to be an offensive challenge because the elites who rule this system are on the offensive. They're passing laws that make protesting for the most just fight in the history of the earth, a fight for a livable planet, illegal. They've bankrupted Adrian Baragaba for fighting the Adani coal mine. But they got rid of native title. That meant that Adani wouldn't have been able to build there. So when the laws get in their way, they change them. So we can't play by their rules. We need to be on the ground. We need to mount a fight. We need to be confident in our own power to challenge the system.
Bullshit, come off it. The fight is not for profit.
Bullshit, come off it. The fight is not for profit. Bullshit, come off it. The fight is not for profit. Bullshit, come off it. The fight is not for profit. Bullshit, come off it. The fight is not for profit. Bullshit, come off it. The fight is not for profit. Bullshit, stop.
Alright, thank you very much, Anna, for those powerful words. So as Anna said, this government and governments across Australia, anytime you see them expanding fossil fuel industries, that is always trampling on the rights of the traditional owners of the Aboriginal people of those lands. So I have as our next speaker, Keenan Smith. He's a learning man from the West Coast, and he's the president of Flinders University Indigenous Student Union, and he's also an environmental science student there. So please make Keenan welcome.
Oh, sorry. If anyone's from the West Coast, any of my family, any of my here, they want to come up stage to me now. Can you please come up? Don't be shy. Come up. Come up. I think solidarity in community is very important to me. We need to stand together. And also, can I get Mob to live stream this? Mob back home that couldn't make it to see this as well. And before I start, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the country we're upon. Acknowledge elders past and come here. Sorry. Okay. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this country, also of the Adelaide Plains Lagana people. I'd like to extend the acknowledgement to elders past, present and emerging. And also extend that acknowledgement to Aboriginal people present here today in the crowd that aren't from Adelaide. So my name is Keenan. I'm a Marinang rural Googaba man from the far west coast of South Australia. I grew up in the communities of Port Lincoln, Sajuna and travelled along that coast for most of my life. That includes beaches in Port Lincoln such as Fisheries Bay, up towards Elliston, Waterloo Bayway, up towards Bowlers, up towards Chittamar, Mexican Hat. That's where all my people grew up, but we all grew up. These people here you see today, these are the faces of the far west coast people. And we stand opposed to drilling in the Bight. The reason why I'm here today is I want to give my people a voice. For too long, our voice is taken away from us. For too long, people don't listen to us. And it's being shown here today. Well, not here today, but being shown today in Australia. People like Ecuador, Noxama, and different various levels of government, they don't engage with us. There's no transparency in their process. As far as we know, there's been no consultation or engagement with us as traditional owners. Yet the last time when I was home, I saw Ecuador people. I saw drilling experts at the local petrol station on their way up to the Bight.
How pathetic is that? You can come to my community, you can come to my country, but you can't actually engage and consult with any of us. It is not acceptable in this day and age, in the 21st century, to not engage with the traditional owners of this country. It is our right. Australia is a signatory to the UN Declaration of Indigenous Rights. We also have native title, and we also have sovereignty, which is never ceded in this country. Indigenous people don't have the luxury of thinking between term and term of government. We have to think about our future generations, as we have been doing for the last 120,000 years. It is our... It is our responsibility to look after this country, to look after these waters. And if we're not engaged or even consulted in these conversations, then what the fuck can we do? Is this how Norway treat their First Nations people? The Sami people? Without even consulting or engaging with them? Is this what they do? And yet they can come all the way to our country and not consult with us at all. It's pathetic. And before I finish, my message is quite clear. To my mob, also to other Indigenous people, we can't afford to be silent anymore. I want to encourage people to speak up, also Indigenous youth. It's our turn now. It's our turn to run things. And just in finishing, I would like to quote the theme for next year's NAIDOC Week. Always was, always will be.
Reading the statement on behalf of Bight, which is an Aboriginal corporation. It's an Aboriginal corporation. We represent people, Aboriginal people who live and work in the Southern Victoria region of South Australia, which is our traditional land. This land is surrounded by a beautiful coastline, which receives the weather that comes from the west. Winds, rain, and subsidence come from the west and from the Great Australian Bight. Anything that affects the Bight eventually affects us, so we write with great concern for our lands and waters. But we also write in solidarity with our Aboriginal brothers and sisters to the west. The list of drilling of these extreme deep, rough and remote waters in the Bight are huge. The chances of an accident are far too great, and the consequences of a spill will be catastrophic and irreversible. The waters and ecosystem of the Great Australian Bight are significant at a global level. They are one of the most pristine marine environments left on Earth. They are the home of the southern white whale. In winter, the same species that now returns to our waters in the Victoria region every winter. This whale, which we call Condali, was killed from its blubber for many years after white settlement in the 1980s. The 1880s, sorry. It is only the last 20 years or so that Condali have finally returned to us every winter to feed and birth their calves. They finally come home to us. The spill of oil in the Bight, which would steadily spread to the east, would be disastrous for our whales, our continent. Our community supports the Aboriginal communities to the west, the Ringu and the Mirring people, and their protest against the oil exploration and the mining of their waters. We also support all people of South Australia who believe that our great Australian Bight must be able to remain the pristine ecosystem it always was and it was always meant to be. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both of those last two speakers. So we've got a couple of more speakers from community unions and high school before we're going to go on a march. So we're just going to march off into the mall and through to the east end of that. So that's coming at the end of today's rally. I think it's important that we take our message out there into the busiest part of the city and make it very clear about the need for all of the community to be involved in fighting for the Bight. I'd like now to welcome our next speaker, Madeline Spry. She's a community activist in the Great Australian Bight Alliance and has been a long-time fighter for the Bight. So please welcome her.
I stand before you with a heavy heart, weighed down in light of recent events. Whilst it is easy to feel defeated, we cannot afford to dwell in these groaning recent times. Many paths have brought us all together here today. And looking at you, this is a reminder that there is no choice but to. All over Australia this year, I have witnessed what a sense of community can achieve in trying to effect change. It's kept me going, and I'm sure it has helped each of you. Without you, without our community, we wouldn't have reached where we are. There is strength in numbers, and this strength comes from all of you. This community, different as we all are here to protect our environment for our future. The Great Australian Bight is not just a pristine marine environment, it is a community, and this has never been more apparent than right now. Thank you all for everything you have done already, and we will keep fighting.
And I'd like to echo that. Thank you to everyone here for coming out today to this protest. I think when you're looking at the fact that Equinor purposely delayed their environmental approval so that it would come just before the Christmas season, I do not think that they were expecting that we would be able to get so many hundreds of people out in the streets only 3 days later. So well done to everyone who's out here. I think it's so important that we've had this immediate response, that we're coming into the city to say clearly in the heart of Adelaide that we're here to stand up for the Bight, and I think we need to take that energy and we need to keep that going. Stay involved in the campaign, keep coming to climate protests and climate action, keep coming to action to fight for the Bight, because we can win this, we've got to fight and we will win. Is Aaron Furnell. Aaron is from Streaky Bay, but here in Adelaide he's also a delegate with the Communications, Electrical and Plumbing Union. He's been an environmental activist, he's spoken at a bunch of climate rallies before. Please welcome Aaron.
I was meant to be in the car, driving home, the long trip back west. I'm a West Coaster, born in Sejourner and grew up in Streaky Bay. That's my home too. That's where my rallies are, and that's where all my childhood memories are. We got pristine beaches, pelican soaring, seagulls stalking, whiting on your line, blue swimming crabs in the shark net where we used to swim, squid eggs staying in the jetty, the best surf beaches and fishing spots in the world. All off the backs of workers like you and me. They put it all in jeopardy for money. That's capitalism for you, this crooked system we live in, and I say, fuck that. I'm sick of this argument around jobs and growth. That will bring jobs into the region, a region that's struggling. All country areas are struggling. Yeah. Take a minute, just take a minute to think about these jobs. They're shit jobs. Yeah. They are. They're terrible. They're jobs that destroy the environment, that kill and make animals suffer, that create oil spills that destroy beautiful beaches, reefs and other ecosystems, jobs that create fossil fuels to pollute the atmosphere more, that worsens the climate crisis. I mean, come on, these bushfires and heat waves are just getting out of control, and we're forced to work in it. They're jobs that are destructive for aquaculture farming, like the delicious oysters we grow over there. Jobs that take workers away from their families and loved ones for weeks at a time, causing great distress. Jobs that are unsafe and highly exploitative, all for money in the hands of fossil fuel bosses and their political pawns in the Liberal and Labor Party. Money in the hands of the rich, off the backs of us, the working class. Fossil fuel companies have actually boasted that oil spills create clean-up jobs. That's I'm also sick and tired of hearing we need a vote for this party or for that party, that we need to lobby politicians, send an email to racist senators in the crossbench and be nice. Fuck that! We have power when we stand together. Mass mobilisations of people are the only way of getting our voices heard out on the streets, in the workplace, in the schools and universities. Unions are a good place to start. Unions are workers' organisations. We're the workers. We build the rigs, we build the infrastructure, we plan it, we do the admin, we do the pays and their banking. We work the computers, we make their profits, and we might feel alone and in competition with each other because that's how capitalism's set up to make us feel. Unions give us a place to organise together. A recent example in Sydney where the Maritime Union of Australia organised around 100 workers to down tools due to the unsafe smoky conditions caused by the record-breaking bushfires we're seeing. Conditions the dock workers are forced to work in. It is. Good on them. Good on them. Down tools, stop work, standing up for safety. That's part of what unions do. Here's a sad side of the story though, because unfortunately, days later, the workers get stripped of 120 grand worth of bonuses by their greedy bosses, penalised for safety. That's what the bosses do. That's the system we live under. To me, that really outlines who the true enemies are, where the true divide in society is. It's not the colour of your skin, it's not your culture, your religion, what country you live in, borders, your gender. It's the rich and powerful bosses versus us, the workers. It's only when we work together, we have the power collectively. We need more of what we're seeing in Sydney. We need more of it. Strike, stop and work, stopping the profits flowing. Organising together, organising fundraisers for strike funds, occupying the streets, fundraising for the inevitable fines the cops and the laws of the bosses will push on us. We're standing together, united, shoulder to shoulder, getting to rallies like these and making them bigger. Workers in our unions coming out and flying our flags, saying no to providing anything to companies like Equinor, denouncing them publicly, the vandals that they are. We have a proud history of action like this. That's non-violent direct action. We've got one planet to love, one planet to live on, one planet to work on, and their profits and their system is fucking it up big time.
has seen the rise of a new and powerful climate movement. Millions of people going on strike around the planet fighting for the climate. And that movement has been led by high schoolers. 20,000 out here on the steps of on the streets of Adelaide on September 20, 350,000 around Australia, 3.5 million around the world. That is the movement that we have. And so I think it's very appropriate today that in this rally to fight for the Bight, as our last speaker, we have a high school activist and poet, Audrey Mason Hyde.
Audrey, I'm 14 years old, and as Tom said, I'm a poet and an activist. And before we get started with this speech, I just want to acknowledge that we're on the lands of the Kaurna people, and we're fighting for the lands of the Mirning and Ngarrindjeri people. This is not the government's land that we're fighting for. We are not fighting for white people's land. We are fighting for everyone's land, but first and foremost, the Indigenous people and the First Nations owners' land. So this next thing I'm going to get you to do, I do a lot of things that I speak at, and I just want you to look around you, and I want you to look into people, look into their eyes, and look at the people next to you. Don't worry if you're uncomfortable, we all are. Just be open and connect with them for a moment. Maybe give them a wink or a smile or a nod. Notice them. You are here today to fight for them as much as for yourself. We are all here to fight for the people around us and for the people all over the world. Emergency in Australia. The people with the most power in the world are the richest and the fewest. That is wrong. There is nothing right or normal about that. These powerful people are so distant from all of us, from the workers and from everyone, and every part of our everyday lives, that they can't understand the effects that they have. Their policies and the actions that these companies are taking by drilling in the Bight, by mining Adani, every action that they are making as part of the fossil fuel industry is affecting everyone but them. They are able to live in luxury, they are able to hop on a jet to Hawaii whenever they want. Shame on that. Now right now, all over Australia, the climate crisis is showing itself in the form of catastrophic bushfires, record-breaking heat waves, and sudden abrupt changes in weather. We are having ash falling from the sky in Sydney. We have cities enveloped in smoke. Nothing about that is normal. That is terrifying. I am scared. Houses are burning in the hills. Yesterday, bushfires started in the hills. That's not normal. That's not okay. I am terrified. We are all scared. I'm pretty sure I can say that for most of us. I can say that for my schoolmates. I can say that for parents all over the world. Our climate is far from normal, and already people's lives, their homes and their land is being lost, and it is being sacrificed for the benefit of corporate greed. Climate change is becoming increasingly present in our everyday lives. It is a household topic. And our Prime Minister has decided to continually choose to publicly ignore these catastrophes, these fires, and the lives that are being lost all around him. While fire services are running short on resources to fight this crisis, Norwegian company Equinor's plan to drill for oil in the Great Australian Bight, which comes at a massive risk to large-scale oil spills and habitat destruction, gained its stamp of supposed environmental approval. Shame. We are, as a country and as a planet, in a terrifying situation. Both literally and figuratively, we are standing in the midst of the fire. We have been ranked as one of the worst countries, if not the worst, for environmental policy in the world. So many people across the country, including fire services, firefighters, and our food sources, such as farmers and land, is being compromised for the benefit of big oil and coal. Shame. Our government refuses to help and keeps giving way for these companies to throw fuel onto the flames. Scott Morrison and the current Liberal government have shown us time and again that they will continue to allow fossil fuel harvesting and refinement to take place in Australia, and will continue to value the profit of companies over our lives and the livelihood of our environment. So what can we do? We must bring as many citizens, students and workers, as well as many people into this fight as we possibly can. We must challenge the system that we live in. We must challenge our governments and these companies until they have no power left. We must fight back. And we must not relent until communities are a priority above corporations. If you care about yourself and your children, if you care about your grandchildren, if you respect those who came before you and Indigenous elders across the country, you cannot justly stop fighting. For climate activists, for all of us to be successful, we must fight for every person on the planet. That moment that you had before with the person next to you, that is beautiful. We cannot let that die. We cannot let human beings worldwide die. We cannot. We are fighting for the survival of firefighters, for farmers. We are fighting for the survival of our ocean ecosystems and for every person in Australia and the world. Now, before we move, I want to share with you a poem. Feel free to interrupt me. It's more of a call to action. You can boo, you can yell, do whatever you want. And I hope that we keep this energy up. I am here in all moods. I know no other place in which I can move truly and freely. This place is my place. It's our place. But it is burning. Our place is sinking. You swim to keep up with the changing tides, the fighting seasons. Survival leaves you no energy to scream. But scream you do. You come from murky waters, infested homes. Every part of your place has now turned to bones. You come from worsening typhoons, from storms that rob you of your dignity. And yet still you manage to yell. I come from an inner city suburb in a well-off country, a country which pays these storm bringers. I have prolonged my action. I have waited until the storm is at my very doorstep to act. But I will be an activist. We will be activists. I will not continue to be a captive, listlessly obeying the system which has trapped me. I will speak, I will yell, I will scream through the megaphones of our homes. I will act for you when survival sucks the energy from your bones. We will scream. We will scream until they listen. We will scream until they listen. We will not stand by until we are extinct. I will not waste time on an education I may never get to finish. We can't wait longer for policies to prevent such profitable massacres. We will rally in the streets. We will compete with profit, with power. We will compete with coal and with big oil until they scream. And we will rally until they realize they're making us extinct. They have robbed us of our futures, of our dignity, and they are selling it for mere money. Are you kidding me? My place, our place, it is caught in light, it is flammable, and things have already turned for the worst. But we will refuse to let ourselves burn.
Everyone here for coming out and protesting today. I think as you look around you, you should be very happy about how many people have managed to come out on such short notice, and I think we've got to keep that energy going. So make sure that you like Uni Students for Climate Justice on Facebook, make sure that you like the Great Australian Bight Alliance, and make sure that you commit yourself to continuing to fight for the planet, to continue to fight for action on climate change, and to continue to fight for the Bight, to stop Equinor or any other companies for drilling for oil in South Australia, and to find any new coal and oil projects here in Australia. Say it clear! Say it loud! 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 Say it clear! No more oil!
Just watch my back.
No more coal! No more oil! No more coal! No more oil! No more coal! No more oil! Bullshit! Come off it! The fight is not for profit! Bullshit! Come off it! The fight is not for profit! Bullshit! Come off it! The fight is not for profit! Bullshit! Come off it! Bullshit! Come off it! Bullshit! Come off it! Bullshit! Come off it! No more coal! No more oil! No more coal! No more oil!
the good work. God loves you guys.